They are already paying for their success. Aqua asks Ruby if she's still driven by love, if there is still passion behind what she's doing. It's a simple question, an almost naive one, because by this point, Ruby is already succeeding in a world where love doesn't move anything forward. She's not angry, she's not confused, she's effective. And that's the part that costs something. Not because anyone is forcing it, but because the world around them no longer asks for anything else. It's easy to watch season 3 and call this growth. Ruby is smarter, Aqua is functioning, everyone is still standing. But that's what makes it dangerous, because nothing here feels like a punishment. Nothing feels like a warning. It just feels like adaptation. And when progress rewards adaptation this cleanly, the question isn't who's doing the wrong thing, it's what kind of person this world actually allows to succeed. Episode 2 doesn't show Ruby suddenly changing who she is. It shows her changing how she presents herself once she understands the rules. Ichigo explains the industries to her plainly. You don't start at the top, you help assistants, you wait to be noticed. Ruby takes that advice seriously. After that conversation, she starts acting differently. She downplays how sharp she actually is, she acts a little clueless, less threatening. Around the assistant director, Ruby is polite, helpful, easy to work with. She listens more than she speaks, and this gives her access, not power, access to the set, to conversations, to how decisions are really made. Aqua is already part of the show. Ruby enters that environment knowing exactly who he is. And instead of standing back, she positions herself carefully. She sets up moments where Aqua's blunt, annoyed personality naturally comes through. She doesn't invent conflict, she frames it. The director responds to that energy. Ruby notices, she learns something very specific. Being nice gets you allowed to stay, but being interesting gets you remembered. Later, she takes this logic even further. Instead of waiting for the assistant director to move up the ladder, Ruby hires him herself into Strawberry production. She doesn't wait for the system to make space for her. She rearranges the space herself. The episode never treats this as a mistake. Ruby is rewarded for understanding how the industry actually works, and that's the shift. Being genuine didn't disappear, it just stopped being enough on its own, which leaves a quiet question behind. If growth only happens when you learn how to present yourself like this, what part of Ruby is the industry slowly training her to let go of? After episode 2, you might expect the story to push back. Ruby has started adapting. She has learned how to present herself in ways that get results. Episode 3 does something more unsettling. It shows that this behavior doesn't stand out at all, because the cosplay episode makes one thing very clear from the start. In this anime, the cosplay community treats people with respect. The cosplayers support each other, they care about boundaries, they value effort, identity, and consent. The episode takes time to show this, and you can feel it in the animation. You can tell it's Ruby in cosplay just by the way she moves, before she speaks, before the camera lingers, before anyone reacts. Her posture, her rhythm, her movement, her confidence. Passion is real here, identity is real, and none of that is treated like a joke. The problem starts when TV production enters the picture. Ruby isn't even the one pushing things forward here. She doesn't talk to the director, she isn't guiding their conversation. The system takes over on its own. The director begins asking over the line, deeply personal questions, explicit questions, the kind that cross boundaries even when the person being asked is an adult. It's uncomfortable, and it's not framed as a mistake, it's framed as content. You can see the split immediately. The cosplayers are uneasy, the assistant director is uneasy, but the questions keep coming, because what matters here isn't comfort, comfort, it's reaction. This is where the episode becomes very clear about what kind of world this is. Passion is allowed, identity is allowed, but only as long as it doesn't get in the way of something more valuable. Attention. Ruby didn't invent this logic. She didn't escalate this moment. Even if she had stayed completely silent, the system would have behaved the same way. And that's the unsettling part. Respect exists here, but it's optional. Care exists, but it can be overridden, which leaves a question hanging that the episode refuses to answer. If even the good people stay quiet when the system pushes too far, what happens to someone who is already breaking inside it? Episode 4 brings everything together, not by escalating the industry, but by showing what happens when it finally turns its full weight inward. The episode is dominated by night. Conversations move away from crowds, away from safety, away from performance. This is where Aqua starts to come apart, not because something new is revealed, but because something he thought was finished is quietly reopened. Ichigo pushes him back toward the truth about the killer, not gently, not carefully. He laughs off Aqua's blindness to it, treats it like something obvious that Aqua simply failed to see. And it matters that he does this now, because Aqua isn't stable here, he's already cracking. But the system doesn't slow down for that. Ichigo doesn't stop to consider Aqua's mental state. He doesn't frame this around healing or timing, he frames it around reality. The killer isn't dead. The job isn't finished. This is what matters. Is Ichigo obligated to be more considerate? No, and that's exactly the point. Ichigo isn't cruel, he's adapted. He represents what it looks like to survive long enough in this world to stop accounting for emotional fallout. Outcomes matter, feelings are secondary. The system has already trained him. Akane becomes the contrast. She sees Aqua's condition immediately. She recognizes that this isn't just information, it's a trigger. She understands the weight of what's being said, not just the facts. And importantly, she also figures out who the killer is. She's capable, she's perceptive, but she handles it differently. Where Ichigo pushes forward, Akane pauses. Not because she's weaker, but because she hasn't fully adapted yet. And that difference matters. Aqua's breakdown isn't treated as a tragedy caused by one person, it's treated as a collision, a system that doesn't stop, a survivor who's learned to ignore damage, and someone who still notices it. Aqua doesn't fall back into revenge, he realizes he never stepped out of it. The progress he thought he made didn't free him, it just made him functional enough to keep going. And that's where the moral cost finally becomes unavoidable, because this world doesn't break people all at once. It keeps the ones who can still operate, even when they are breaking inside. Which brings us back to the question that's been forming this entire time. If progress only works when you become someone colder, then what does it actually mean to succeed in this world?